Production funding for Ruckus has been provided by Fred and Lou Hartwig and viewers like you. Thank you.
Well, good evening and welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckus join me shortly on our topics tonight: checking in on a downtown hotel, possible buy-in on another bi-state, and the state of the state versus the city over a living wage. But we start with our interview segment and discuss the condition of mental health care in the area as we acknowledge that May is National Mental Health Awareness Month. Our guests are Kim Romery with Jewish Family Services. Kim manages the Greater Kansas City Mental Health Care Coalition. Probably not in need of an introduction, Anthony Davis, a former Kansas City Chiefs linebacker and creator of the Your Next Play Foundation. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for joining us here on Ruckus. Let me start with you, Kim. What's the purpose of Mental Health Awareness Month? What do you hope to achieve?
Well, for the Greater Kansas City Mental Health Coalition, it's a great time for us to continue our work to end the stigma associated with mental illness and to really get people talking about mental health issues in our community.
When you say stigma associated with mental health problems, discuss that in more detail. What do you mean?
Sure. Well, 1 in 5 people actually will have a diagnosable mental illness this year. Unfortunately, that makes it more common than cancer, diabetes, or heart disease. And yet, very few people know how to talk about it. It's still an illness that just doesn't get mentioned in polite conversation, unfortunately. And that makes it really hard for people to get the support that they really need to recover from mental health issues.
Mental health problems treated differently than ordinary diseases and other ailments?
Unfortunately, if you're dealing with a physical illness, your family and friends tend to rally around you. They're bringing you casseroles. They're, offering to drive carpool. And unfortunately, when people are dealing with mental illness, they're usually afraid to even mention it to family and friends because they know that that's not necessarily the reaction that they'll get.
But don't you think the stigma has been reduced dramatically over the past couple of decades?
I think that it's definitely becoming lessened, but it's certainly, we have a long ways to go.
All right, Anthony, we talked to Kim because she works in the profession. What's your excuse for being involved?
Well, I was on both ends. I was someone who broke his ankle, and people came to me and helped me, and then I was dealing with depression. And I didn't want to share that with no one. So the physical part, people did help me. The mental part, I was not aware or allow people to help me. I didn't want to know I was dealing with depression.
Did you have clinical depression?
Yes, I did. I got diagnosed in 1998.
How does one undergo treatment for that?
Well, you can't be in denial. You got to follow through, and you got to be able to accept the diagnosis. And unfortunately for me, I got in trouble with the law, and the NFL sent me to a inpatient, and that's when they realized that I was clinically depressed.
You're running a foundation now. What does it do?
Well, right now we're just trying to get the message out that it doesn't matter what you've done in the past, what you do now, what you decide now is the only thing that matters. So you got Marty Schottenheimer used to always say to us, you got to move on to your next play. And what he was saying is, no matter what, forget about it, good or bad, and move on to your next play in your life.
Kim, when we talk about mental health problems, we're talking about a wide spectrum, are we not?
Absolutely. They can range widely, just like physical illnesses do, from mild depression to much more serious things like psychosis. But it doesn't seem to matter how severe it is. It's still something that people don't want to talk about.
What's the most common mental health problem, would you say?
Definitely depression, and that's.
But there are various stages of depression, right, and different levels.
Absolutely. I think Anthony would probably tell you he had one of the more severe ones, but certainly, there are lots of people that deal with mild depression that can even just be triggered by an event.
Well, Kim, if somebody is concerned about this or has a friend or relative about whom they're concerned, how do they get advice? Is there a phone number, a website you can suggest?
I would encourage everyone to visit our website, which is www.itsok.us. We have some suggestions for starting the conversation with family and friends there, and we also have a list of resources available in our community where they can get further assistance.
And Anthony, if people want to learn more about you or your foundation, any suggestions?
Yes, I'm in the real estate business now. I'm helping people get in and out of their homes. So you can email me at anthonydavis@kw.com.
All right, thanks to both of you for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
I hope the month's activities are very successful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we just heard from Kim Romery of the Greater Kansas City Mental Health Coalition and former Kansas City Chief Anthony Davis. Now let's meet the Rockettes and start a ruckus. Lisa Johnston is a columnist and consultant and the 2010 Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate in Kansas. Steve Glorioso is a media and political consultant. Darla J. is the star of a morning talk show, 5 to 9 on Talk 980 AM. Did I get that right? You did. And Ron Freeman is a motivational speaker and author. Piece by piece, the downtown Kansas City puzzle comes more clearly into focus. With each new and sometimes controversial development, the goal of attracting conventions to Kansas City seems less elusive. There's the Sprint Center, Power and Light District, Bartle Hall enhancements, the Performing Arts Center, and now what many think is the crown jewel, a convention hotel funded in part by local taxpayers. While plans are not yet final, the goal is to have an 800-room hotel in operation by 2018, run by Hyatt just south of the downtown loop. The total cost is in the neighborhood of $300 million, which is a nice neighborhood, with Kansas City kicking in $50 million over 25 years and providing various tax incentives. Among those involved on the business side is Kansas City and Mike Burke, a former councilman and candidate for mayor. If you were a betting man, Steve, and I know you're not, what are the odds of this hotel project being completed?
I'd say 90%. I mean, they have an agreement that was announced the other day. So they've come to the numbers. They've worked all the numbers out. The question will be, there's some odds and ends that always can derail a deal, but this one was pretty much put together. They've been working on this for 4 years, and this is not something that happened overnight. And I will say that I give the mayor the most credit, and so did former Rockette Yale Abahaka today. And he said, to his credit, James has properly and steadfastly said he would sign off on a hotel agreement that would put the city's general fund at risk for paying a failed project. So there's no guarantee of debt. They rejected at least 5 other proposals over the last 3 years where developers wanted big cash infusion and the city to guarantee the debt, which brings down their interest rate on their bonds. And the city didn't agree to that. And I'm glad you showed the projects downtown. I have a photo in my office, 2003, of downtown, a sea of parking lots, surface, porn shops, strip clubs, haunted houses.
The good old days.
Yeah, right. And now we have 21,000 people living from the river to Union Station. So we have a new downtown, and this really is kind of the crowning piece, the last piece of a vibrant downtown.
Darla, amid all this joy and celebration, are there some reasons for concern?
Well, I think there's always reasons for concern. And one of the things that struck me is that, ironically, after the mayoral race, where it was so nice and clutching hands and everything with Mayor Sly James and Mike Burke, that all of a sudden Mike Burke becomes the leader of this whole hotel project.
Pretty good consolation prize.
Yeah, I would say. And some people are saying, well, was that the consolation prize? If you're nice and you let me win, then I'll let you do this hotel.
Well, I don't think Burke
concern.
could let him win, but
no,
they remain pretty good friends.
Well, it was an odd
election.
mayoral race, don't you think?
Boring.
Boring.
Yeah.
They were so nice.
They made a big point,
fighting?
though, that they wanted to run the campaign on a high level.
The devil is in the details. And, you take 4 years or 18 months, whatever, to come up with a plan. You give it to the city council, give them 3 months to say yes or no. Are they really going to vet it and make sure it's going to protect the citizens of this community? And I don't think they will. And I don't think there's a guarantee you build this and all of a sudden, if you build it, they will come. That worked in Iowa one time.
I think quite rightly, people are worried about what the timeline is going to be for return on investment.
Right.
And what will the return on investment be? I do think Kansas City is an attractive location, and economically it's a little more affordable. So it probably would draw conventioneers to build the hotel, but will it be worth it in the long run is my question.
And yeah, and I don't think you have time for the council to really make that determination. You're going to end up buying into something really much like
3 months.
Obamacare.
I mean, this is a pretty smart. I'm just glad we didn't have the hotel and end up with a Republican convention. Oh my God, that would have been awful. I would have had to leave town.
Cleveland got that economic boost right
Well,
there.
exactly. But you know, the travel industry, the convention industry, is not as robust as everybody is making it sound.
Right.
So we're saying we're going to build this giant hotel. It's $300 million, 800 rooms, and A, what happens to all the other hotels surrounding it, and B, what if it isn't filled with conventions? Then you know the taxpayers are going to be on the hook.
Well, yeah,
Sprint
Lisa,
Center didn't draw a basketball team.
Lisa,
so many things.
what does this do to the other hotels downtown? During conventions, they'll all be filled, but how about when there aren't conventions and people are booking rooms in Kansas City? Will they want to go to the new sparkly toy?
Probably so. It's added competition, and the question then becomes, will that make some of the other hotels suffer during the non-peak times? And I think it's highly likely.
Was the downtown streetcar line, Steve, designed for its present location because folks knew where this hotel was going to be planned?
I'm not sure.
I mean,
of
it's
that.
conveniently close.
Well, what's convenient is that the city owns about 80% of that square block. They always have. That is the city property, so there's no purchase. And it's right next to Bartle Hall, which makes it the perfect location. I would guess that the city thought, hey, this is the likely place that a convention hotel will go if we ever get one. But Main Street was always the most logical because of where it ends up at Union Station. Grand Avenue presented lots of problems for the Sprint Center and other companies on Grand Avenue, and it was a dead end. It goes down there below TMC.
Let me ask you one final question, then we have to move on. We always hear there's one more thing necessary for downtown to really succeed. Is this the final thing?
Well, it's the piece that everyone, in the convention business talks about.
So
something,
this is the
something to do with, downtown, a good hall, the performing arts, a Sprint Center, et cetera. So, yeah. I mean, it's a reasonable risk. Other cities are putting $100 million or more to get these kind of hotels.
All right, because the Kansas City metro area is spread over 2 states and at least 5 counties, it's often difficult to get everyone on the same page, especially when it comes to paying taxes. One notable exception happened 2 decades ago when all but one area county approved a bi-state tax to renovate and refurbish Union Station. Now there's talk of another attempt to offer a bi-state tax, this one designed to support arts and cultural activities. The Star's editorial page editor, Steve Paul, writes in his weekend column that the idea is part of a new document titled the One Arts KC Regional Cultural Plan. The study suggests people throughout the area are willing to pay a small amount in taxes for direct support to arts. A previous attempt to get bi-state tax support for the arts failed in 2002. Lisa, you think one could succeed in 2015?
Well, I think it will be an issue of timing and messaging, but regardless, it's going to be a challenge because many individuals see the arts as dessert rather than meat and potatoes. And I know that the One Arts KC study and survey showed that a huge number of people said that they would support this, but what I don't know is the overlap between likely voters on this issue and their survey respondents. And finally, folks on the Kansas side of the state line right now, this would not be the time, I don't think, to press this forward because many people have tax fatigue as they listen to the litany of tax increases that are going to be necessary to deal with the revenue crisis in the state.
And Steve, one of the problems before was that most of the amenities that people talk about are on the Missouri side, and Kansas residents might be shortchanged if they were paying taxes also.
Well, I don't see this as very probable, but you are right about that. But this is what happens, though, when you have you've redone a renaissance in your downtown, is that you start to add to it as a critical mass. And I don't know if the people in Johnson County would see it that way, but that's sort of the logic. But I can't imagine this would pass with all the other needs we have in the metro.
Well, in 2002, it was a difficult thing to get passed because people were still frustrated about Union Station and the lack of success there. Now that Union Station has pretty well turned around and seems to be in the black, do you think people might be willing this time to look at an arts bi-state project?
I think it'll be hard to get it through Johnson County. And the other, because according to this article, people are willing to pay $5, $10, or $15 a year on direct support for arts activities. If that were the case, then why aren't people paying $5, $10, or $15 already to support the arts? And the other thing is, this is going to be mostly in Kansas City. And yeah, I might drive down there and see it and say, oh, that's pretty, or what the heck is that? Which is a lot of times what I do. But I don't think I'm willing to pay for it as far as for Kansas City.
And by the way, there is no plan to do this at the moment. It's just an idea being talked about in the arts community. I want to turn to another more pressing topic. Missouri House Speaker John Deal, a Republican, admits a sexting relationship with a former intern, 19-year-old woman, a freshman at a state university. He says he's sorry. He'll undergo counseling, the usual stuff that you hear when somebody is caught in a relationship like this. There are calls for him to resign. Do you think he should, Lisa, and do you think he will?
Well, I think that there will probably be a lot of call for him to do that, and I think that others who have been in similar delicate situations have stepped back. I think he may not want to. He's delayed that thus far.
If you were a Democrat, he wouldn't have to. Just know that.
Right.
He definitely should apologize profusely and probably should step back and resign.
Darla, I heard you talking about this on your radio program this morning, and you had a lot of people calling in, expressing a variety of views. What did you hear, and what is your view?
What I heard was one particular caller was a father of a 19-year-old daughter. And he said, you know, if this were my daughter and this happened to my daughter, then I would punch him in the nose. But other people were saying, look, she's an adult, he's an adult, and so if they as two adults decide to sext each other, isn't that their decision?
And we don't know it's gone beyond that, do we? We can assume,
no,
but we
except
don't
for
know.
one of the texts said something about, yeah, remember that time in your office? And that made me kind of wonder. And he said, you seem to be disappointed all the time.
We have to parse the issue of, you know, people in leadership roles. What standards are we holding them to? And yes, it's true. She was of age, and so they didn't do anything illegal.
So was Monica Lewinsky, though. That was wrong.
They didn't do anything illegal, but it reflects poorly.
Steve, you're a Democrat, and some Democrats have been saying this is going to hurt Republicans in next year's election. It's still a ways before we vote in November 2016. Do you really think this is going to have any impact?
No. What I think will hurt, if the Republicans have another year next year like they've had this year, with the state auditor committing suicide, his spokesman committing suicide, all the implications that, even though obviously Mr. Schweik, the auditor, was not a very stable person, but he was driven to that in part by some pretty nasty politics. Yeah, it would hurt, but they're lucky. It's still another year and almost 18 months. But it's not a good sign. I mean, it's not a healthy party when you have all this turmoil month after month.
The party has been successful in getting its legislation passed and overriding gubernatorial vetoes.
But that's easy. They have the votes.
It's been good for Missouri.
Easy?
Yeah, and they're very moralistic about the woman's body. But you know, we got to remember, this guy is a married man with 2 kids. It's not just three. Okay, that we know of.
It's not just
he will pay. Yeah. Well, he'll pay
whether he resigns or not.
He'll probably be paying child support before long.
You know, people don't want to deal with it, so it's easier for the Republicans to throw them overboard. You know.
Well, I think that at least with the Republicans, they do stand for morals and integrity, and they don't rally around the people who actually are in a position of power and using that position to maybe take advantage or maybe not of a young girl.
All right, we'll move on. Civil rights leaders in Kansas City want the city council to ask voters to approve a hike in the minimum wage to $10 now, jumping to $15 in 5 years. Ignored by the leaders is the fact that the law prohibits Missouri cities from raising the minimum wage above the level set by the state. Nevertheless, 2 local ministers, Sam Mann and James Tindall, filed an initiative petition with 4,000 signatures calling for the vote. Reverend Tindall is quoted as saying, "We don't want to see the same things happen in Kansas City that happened in Baltimore and in Ferguson, Missouri." Tindall says a lack of good jobs is one of the root causes of unrest in urban core neighborhoods. So, Darla, is that a good argument to make to the council to persuade them to ignore state law?
To me, it was almost like a veiled threat.
Yep.
If you don't pass this increase in minimum wage, what the city council does not have the power to do because of state law, then we're going to have problems here like we had in Baltimore. That's how I took that. He talks about if we raise the minimum wage to $12 an hour and make it up to $15 by 2020, that we'll have all these jobs. And I think he fails to realize is that if you raise the minimum wage for all these people who are working minimum wage jobs, there are going to be less jobs. And the people that are working right now, if they're not a great employee, why would I want to keep you for $15 an hour when I'm kind of questioning you at $7.65?
Let me ask you, Ron, does that sound like a threat to you, what I quoted Kendall was saying?
It's classic inflammatory rhetoric. It's saying we're going to cause problems if we don't get what we want. But at the end of the day, you look at the poverty level and minimum wage really, I mean, is it an issue? To some extent, yes, but in reality, the problems are greater than that. And it's family structure, it's education, it's training and being prepared for the job market. And if there are opportunities here way beyond minimum wage, nobody goes for it.
Lisa, is there any point in having a vote on something that would be presumably negated by state law?
I don't think it's a good idea to pursue something that would be negated. That makes absolutely no sense. Now, I do agree with the premise, which is this is an issue we need to deal with at the national level. And from my perspective, it's a win-win-win because businesses always want lower taxes. What better way to do it than reduce your taxable income by paying your workers more? They have the income they need to live, and it's good for the economy because they spend more money.
They do that to the extent they're able to now. And you're talking about fast food restaurants, you're talking about really places where limited opportunity, and you're going to create fewer jobs, as Darla said. But the bigger thing is, if you got two-parent household with minimum wage would make about $30,000 a year and probably could make it. But when you take away, when you're a single-parent household and you're making minimum wage, boy, it's dramatic. But most of these jobs are taken by teenagers anyway.
And whatever happened
that's been disproven, actually.
Whatever happened to these jobs are a step up. They're not the end-all and the be-all. You go and you get your experience at a minimum wage job. My first job was at Burger King. And I worked there until I knew what I was doing.
A whopper of a deal.
Sonic,
yes.
Sonic, I had Sonic, yeah, right?
Well,
Exactly.
they're called entry-level positions.
Exactly.
For
There's a reason for it, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people making less than $15 an hour that are my age or your age, Mike.
No, I doubt that.
But we've raised the minimum wage before, and it's not led
And it doesn't destroy the businesses.
No, it hasn't. And every time the public gets to
you admit
vote
there's a
on
break
it,
point,
every
right?
time the public gets to vote on it, in the United States of America, it passes overwhelmingly.
Well, why wouldn't it?
Public's voted for
Why wouldn't people vote for it?
The public has more empathy for the working poor than do conservatives.
And those darn rich people, they should just give up. You just made that comment. They should just, they'll be paying less in taxes. Why do I open a business? Is it because I want to not make any money? Is it because I want to work really hard and then say, well, I'm going to pay my employees more and my margin of profit's going to go way down? Yippee for me.
Let's not forget with these corporations, the individual salaries of these individuals are completely separate than the taxable income for the corporation.
But these are small
we have corporations.
businesses.
We're not talking about corporations. I mean, you look at the corporations in Kansas City, they're paying their employees very well.
Even with smaller businesses, the owners or CEOs usually draw salaries.
And we've seen a lot of companies take it on their own and raising the minimum wage and standards and benefits, vacation, et cetera. Henry Ford had it right. I want to pay my workers more so they can afford to buy the car. And that's really what we're at.
And pay them so
It
they can afford
rises
to buy
all
the burger,
boats.
right?
The Republicans talk about rising boats from the top. I look at it, and so do Democrats, from the bottom up.
Rising waters raise all ships.
boats.
Yes,
That's right.
That was
That's
John
Ronald
Kennedy,
Reagan.
too.
Yes.
And Ronald Reagan. Now we turn to Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes lift up or put down people and events in the news. And we start with Steve Glorioso.
Thank you. I would like to toast Pope Francis. Other popes like John Paul and others railed on against the dangers and of unchecked vulture capitalism and the death penalty, but Pope Francis has gone the extra 5 miles. Here's some of my favorites. Just yesterday, he recognized the Palestinian state. My favorite quote, of course, is, "Who am I to judge gay and lesbians?" And in June, he's evidently going to put out an encyclical, which is a major, major statement, saying that climate change is a danger and it's man-made, and Christians all over the world have a duty to God to save his creation. And of course, the very best is someone booted Bishop Finn, a discredited, convicted local bishop out of the local diocese for his failure to report abuse by priests.
Strong letter to follow. Ron.
I'm going to roast the minimum wage crusaders. And I think you look at it, blaming poverty problems on minimum wage it's the same old story. If we just raise this wage level, then poverty will go away, which hasn't worked. What we really need is cultural renewal in this community, a sense of purpose that doesn't require government intervention. We got this idea that somebody will come in and fix it for you. Basically, if it doesn't get fixed, you're a victim instead of taking responsibility. Plenty of capable people in this community who can get things done. And maybe education, training, and the idea of casting a vision for positive growth in the community instead of threatening people with riots would be better.
I would like to roast Kansas Governor Sam Brownback for suggesting that Kansas transition to a consumption tax model. This essentially means if you don't spend your income, you don't pay taxes on it. For those who need to spend all of their income, they would pay tax on their entire income, but those who are more affluent would pay zero tax on what they saved. Not only is this unfair, but it's bad for the economy and would disincentivize spending and encourage those living near state lines to cross them in order to save sales tax money while shopping.
I would like to toast, and before you freak out, I'll explain why. Missouri House Speaker John Deal. And the reason why I'd like to toast him is because, yes, he got caught texting with a 19-year-old intern, which is not a good thing. But the first thing he did was come out and say, I am totally responsible. It is not her, it's nobody else. The buck stops with me. I made a mistake. I was wrong. It was stupid. The buck stops with me, and you rarely hear politicians say anything like that ever.
All right, and before we wrap it up, let me mention that next week our interview segment will be with Mike Burke, and we'll talk about the new plans for a downtown hotel in Kansas City. He's one of the major backers, and as we mentioned earlier, former member of the Kansas City, Missouri City Council and an unsuccessful candidate for mayor. And that is Ruckus for this week. We're back next Thursday evening at 7. Now on behalf of the Ruckettes and the crew, I'm Mike Shannon saying thanks very much for watching and good night.